Heavy metal
My
rock.
global mind.
And skin in the game. We all have a dog in the fight. Yeah. We wage a war and a battle to live on through the silent night.
I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on My Global Minds, I'm pleased to be speaking to Paul Gilbert of Mr. Big, and we have a lot to talk about. We have to talk about a farewell tour, a farewell to the band, a live DVD and CD, The Big Finish, as well as a new studio album that came out in July. So welcome. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
All good. Thanks for talking to me too.
And if we have time, and you want to jam,
That's have you used that before?
no, I just taped it up for our interview 5 minutes before the interview. I said, I gotta do that. I've never
Well,
used it before.
Is it I didn't quite get a look at the details.
It's just a drill with the picks taped on with duct tape.
That well the problem is they need to be angled more like the propeller of an airplane.
Ah, gotcha.
So that could be done for, you could do that. I don't know, maybe I should try it like that. It might
I figured you would have had a
that could be
special attachment where the
better.
picks slide
Maybe
into, no?
you might have engineered an improvement.
No, this is pretty basic, you know? I would have thought
Well,
you would have had a
basic is
chuck.
good.
You would have had a chuck where these things slide in and out, no?
Well, I make a bit that's like a dowel rod,
Right.
and then drill a little hole and put a screw, and then use lock washers and epoxy if I really want to get serious.
More sophisticated than my duct taped one.
Well, it needs to be, because it gets taken on tour and it has to
Of course.
function.
Of course. No, I saw you in 2017, the last time I saw you guys, and you pulled it out, you and Billy. It was pretty impressive.
It's I always forget that that's part of what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
unless it's a Mr. Big show. If I'm doing my own thing, I'll leave, go on the road. It's like, oh, should I have brought the drill? Are people expecting that? Like Angus Young doesn't have any side projects outside of AC/DC, but if he did, would he wear shorts?
That's a good point. That's a very
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
How many picks do you have on your drill?
In the old days, I had 3. These days, I've put 4. It's one faster.
One fact. That's awesome. Well, listen, I'm really excited to talk to you today. And I wanted to talk first off a little bit about the farewell and the retirement of Mr. Big. I mean, you guys have, as I mentioned, you have the new studio album, you have the live album out. You guys are firing on all cylinders. What's the rationale for retiring?
Well, everybody probably has their own take on it.
Yeah.
For me, it's I'm glad that we can end it when it is firing on all cylinders.
Mhm.
As you said, that's rather than running into the ground where it's obvious that the vehicle needs to be taken into the scrap heap. I think everybody. I mean, and really before, like, I thought the last tour was the final one, the one you saw, in
Yeah.
2017, Matt Starr on drums. I
Right.
thought that was probably it. And so to me, this is like a victory lap. Like the fact that we can get it together and do it, like, full power one more time. That's the way to do it.
I agree. I didn't get a chance to see the shows, but when I saw you in 2017, it was tremendous. And then Pat passed away, and there was all these stories that you guys were going to be, retiring out of respect to Pat. So, what changed your mind to come back
Well,
and do this victory lap?
obviously we got Nick DiVirgilio involved on drums, and Nick has just been great.
Yeah.
As a drummer, as a harmony singer, because that was a big part of Pat's contribution, was also being a really strong
Right.
vocalist, and just his energy as a person has really lifted everybody up. So, I couldn't be happier with what Nick's contributed to
That's
the
great.
album and tour.
That's great. I always wondered, and I never asked you this, was it tough for Pat to sit on the side of the stage or in the wings during that tour and watch somebody else play those songs? I know he came out for a bunch of songs, but was it tough?
Well, I'm sure there were a lot of tough things when, when you start to have, physical limitations that prevent you from doing what you can do.
Right, right.
Um, he handled it, really well. He's a great, strong spirit of a person, and and he had a sense of humor. So,
Yeah, he did.
I think, even a person in the peak of their health still has limitations.
Of course.
That's one of the things that, as I've gotten older and my hearing has gotten worse, and I broke a hip a couple of years ago, and so I'm starting to deal with things that aren't as good as they used to be. But the thing I realize is that even even when you're 19 years old and you're at your ultimate physical peak, you're still not unlimited. There's still plenty of things you can't do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or
And
mishaps
so,
that could happen along the way.
yeah. And so at any point of your life, you're really dealing with, like, well, what do I have and what can I do with it?
Yeah,
And the tools that you have may change. Some of them may get better. You may educate yourself, or you may develop abilities that you didn't have when you were younger, and you can add those into the equation. Uh, but you're never in a situation where you're just without limits. You're always dealing with some kind of limitation. And so as those limitations come into your life, it's just a matter of dealing it with intelligence and humor, and finding a plan B.
and he did. He did. He came out and he sang a song. I think he was playing the tambourine, and he made some sort of joke about the shaking and the tambourine at work. So
You-
here's a
You've you've
guy.
g- you've got to,
Yeah, we didn't think he was going to pass away, but looking back, he was very
I think
entertaining.
when you're younger, a sense of humor is enjoyable. When you
Yeah.
get older, a sense of humor is necessary.
And as I mentioned earlier, in July, you put out a new studio album, 10. Sounds fantastic. It's a very optimistic and fun sounding album. Was that the reflection of how the band was feeling when you went into the studio to write and to make this album?
One, I never know how it's going to be until it's all put together.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was a bit tricky because, in a perfect world, you have a band who's all in the same room, everybody's rehearsed, you play it in one take, and it's magic. Um, but just everybody's schedules weren't going to allow that. Uh, Billy was out with the winery dogs. Eric had, all kinds of Japan tours. Uh, Nick had some stuff, a big train, I think. And I was thinking about doing some things, but I thought, if I if I book any of my own stuff, somebody's got to make this album happen. The only person left is me.
Yeah.
So I just put all my own stuff on hold, and really focused on making it so any little scrap of time that the other guys would have, I could bring them in and have them do their parts, or add to the writing, or whatever it was. And so I was kind of the pre-production producer,
Mhm.
and then I was very much looking forward to getting it to the point where we could get the real producer to take over, and I could just be the guitar player.
Yeah. I thought it was a great album. I think my favorite song is I Am You. It's really classic Mr. Big, I thought. What's the history behind that one?
I'm used as one of Eric's tunes, and yeah, it's when Eric brings a song in, it's rarely a demo, or rarely a demo. It's usually he'll just play it on acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
and then my involvement is a lot of, like, taking that raw performance, which is great. I
Yeah,
love doing that, and then figuring out, okay, well, what's the drum part?
yeah,
And actually on that one, uh, it had a really interesting, like Eric's ideas for the drums, I never would have thought of. because he had this kind of almost like Pretty Woman, you know, that,
Mhm.
you know, a really kind of like snare on all the beats, uh, very high energy
Yeah.
drum beat that I wouldn't have thought of. You know, obviously, you know, it's like he's an acoustic, more like a ballad, and uh, and that just Eric's idea for the drum beat led to the bass part being a certain way, and so it was. You know, I was taking the seed of Eric's ideas. I was able to, you know, put a lot of the arrangement together, and then that's fun because it really
Yeah.
gives the song a character that's much different than when Eric just brings it in with the acoustic guitar.
I thought it was very poppy, and I really liked your guitar tone. It was actually clean. I thought, you know, my limited knowledge of what you were doing, but I thought it was a very, very clean guitar tone. Now that I'm hearing it, it was very reminiscent of maybe an acoustic guitar that you were trying to go after, was it?
I can't remember. uh, I mean, it probably had acoustics because
Yeah.
you know, I mean, sometimes Eric wants to play on the track itself, so I'll keep his, you know, I'll keep his performance as part of it.
Okay.
Um, but mostly, you know, to make it work with like what Billy's playing, usually I kind of have to clean it up a bit. Uh, yeah, but I think with this, I mentioned my hearing. One of the advantages of my hearing loss is I tend to really crave a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times I'll listen to you know, a record that I was like that I liked when I was a kid. When I listen to it now with my ears, it's just like really cloudy.
Mhm.
And and so when I make new music, I do everything I can, you know, with my own guitar sound to just squeeze as much clarity as possible, so nothing gets, you know,
Yeah.
nothing gets too muddy or lost in the mix, you know, with reverb or delay. You know, just try to have it pretty in your face. Uh, not only in terms of volume, but in terms of just the tone choices themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation. Another great song was Right Out of Here. What a great song. Did you play a sitar in certain parts, or was that a special effect you had on your guitar?
It
So
was
it kind of mixed
prob
country and
it
it.
wasn't it definitely wasn't a sitar instrument because I don't know how to play those.
Okay.
Um, if anything, it was probably the note choice, because that kind of melody
Yes, maybe.
just puts you in the mindset of music that might have a sitar in it.
Right.
And I probably overdubbed. I mean, I think I played slide on the melody, and maybe I overdubbed, you know, another guitar. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Um,
it merges like country, and then it's got that Indian sitar sound to it. It was kind of a unique combination that I really liked hearing.
well, so no one is more surprised than me that my slide playing has become useful.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd always get the, you know, the producer when we did the old Mr. Big records, the producer would always veto my slide contributions,
Why?
like on the early because I was no good at it.
Oh,
I'd come in and stink up the place, you know,
oh,
and
geez.
I'd be like, "Yeah, how about sliding this song?" And you know, Kevin Elson, who was our producer on their old records, he was Leonard Skinner's live front of house engineer.
Okay.
So he, you know, he's here in Freebird every night with the real cats, you know, the guys that can really play that stuff. And he, you know, he hears me, you know, shred man come in and try to do it, and I just my intonation was no good. But more recently, I started working on it more. I invented a slide magnet where I could
Yeah.
attach the slide to my guitar and just have it there to play with it more. And I started getting a feel for it. So there's, you know, probably more slide playing on this album than any I've ever done. And I love it. You know, to me, it's like to be able to have another voice that, you know, is you know, and now it feels good to me. I mean, I understand what Kevin heard back in the day that was unacceptable.
I
And
have to go back and listen to it.
I think I've moved past that to the point where it's acceptable.
I have to go back and listen to the album with that ear in mind, listening for slide guitars. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
You also put out the live album too. It's a live album, CD and DVD combination, and Lean Into It is played throughout. It's in its entirety. What was the decision to do that album in its entirety versus a lot of different songs?
Well, it's probably the best album we've done.
Mm,
So it's nice to showcase it
yeah.
and a challenge to do it because several of those songs we never played ever
Wow.
live. Uh, like for example, "Never Say Never" was kind of a songwriter's song. Like Eric did a co-write with a guy I can't remember, Jim Valance or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it wasn't like something that we worked up in rehearsal. It was more like Eric came in and, oh, I did a co-write with this guy who's a famous songwriter, and we put it together in the studio. Um, and so a lot of that stuff we just never done. And the challenge for Billy and I is a lot of the keys we wanted to change them to make them uh, singable, and we had to lower it enough where it's not just like a matter of, oh, I'll tune down a half step or even a whole step. So a lot of it was like relearning it. Never Say Never is, had the riff is really easy to play with an open E string,
Yeah.
but it's not an E anymore. It's
Oh,
and
that's
so
hard. Yeah, that's
and it's not only that riff, but like all the places where your hands are used to going for the chord changes. That's all in a different universe now, and so you have to like dump out the old version from your brain and put the new
right.
one in, and not have them get confused. So I think when we did that Budokan show that the live album is taken from, that was like the first night when we didn't muck up the chords too bad,
That's pretty good.
because it was
It-
still like your brain is fighting itself, because its instinct is the way you used to play it,
right.
and so even the ones that we did play before were a huge challenge, just because, like, yeah, it's in C sharp. No, it's not.
Yeah. There goes the muscle memory, right? It's like usually it's reflexive, and you
Yeah,
can just
and
figure it
a
out.
lot of things on guitar, like you're just used to, the way that key has a certain feel
Yeah.
to it on the instrument, and you've got, if you played it for decades, and all of a sudden, like, no, everything is wrong. So
Now, you filmed this about a year ago, in Budokan, as you mentioned.
yeah.
Do you have any favorite memories or special memories of the filming of that show besides the time you didn't muck up all the choruses?
Well, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
To triumphantly go like, this is the first time we really nailed it. I mean, I remember it was really early on in the tour, and we the first show we did was in China, and that was just, everything was chaos, and we managed to pull it together on stage, but all the production stuff, and Nick's flight got canceled. It was just really a panic. Then we get to Nagoya for the first show in Japan, and I remember during sound check thinking, like, I don't know if this is gonna work.
Oh,
We had,
geez.
like a new monitor guy, because our sound guy had canceled at the last minute. So we had to so the guy who was going to run monitors became the front of house, and we had a new monitor guy, and he didn't know what
Oh my God.
everybody wanted. So the sound check was a disaster. And I remember just, everything was a catastrophe in sound check, and the show was all right, which was just miraculous, but still a little rough around the edges. Osaka was the next one, and it was really hot.
Mhm.
Just, it was in the summer, and I think that venue, didn't have the air conditioning, so we were just, all of us were just melting.
Right.
Eh, Then we get to the first Budokan, and it was pretty good. And we get to the second Budokan, which is the one that we taped, and that one was like, yes, finally,
Nailed it.
a lot of the disasters have seemed to have fallen away. Those are in the past, and we finally, just nailed it. And that's when the tape was rolling. So that was good.
Was there any concern, I guess, early on, maybe we shouldn't be taping this, for all those concerns that you mentioned?
Well, we really wanted to aim for the Budokan, because it's it's a venue that's legendary, from the Beatles to Cheap Trick,
Right.
and means a lot to us. I mean, in back in the day, that was our, you know a shining achievement for us to have played there multiple nights.
No, that's fantastic. What was your last Mr. Big show, and what did you guys do? Uh,
On
at
the,
the
on
end?
the, on this tour,
Yeah.
it was a festival in Romania, and it was an unusual show. Like, a lot of travel to get there. It wasn't like the main city in Romania.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I mean, I love the little town. I'd never been there before, and but it was, that's the way. it reminds me of like when fans will write to us and they'll say like, "Why aren't you playing where I live?"
Mm.
And you know, we're not. We've never been to the point where we sit down and go like, "Okay, where do we want to play?" You know, that's not how it works. You know,
Right, right,
you hook up with a booking agent, your manager does,
right,
and they sort out, okay, well, what routing works for the, you know, for the bus, and you know you go where you can,
right, of course. What
and
what did what did you guys do when you parted ways? Was it anything special or maybe different knowing that that was the last Mr. Big show?
I think it it was, we all wanted to get some sleep.
Bye.
It was because you can't help but be influenced by just the daily physical challenges, and it was really a hellacious bus ride to get there. It's like 24 hours on the bus,
Oh my
and
God.
then and so after that, we're just like, "Oh," you know, I just need some sleep and some and when you're doing these bus rides, there's no food.
Oh wow.
I mean, you can stop at, like, the convenience store
Yeah.
and get the, you know, get the ancient ham sandwich, but, it's not glamorous living, and, you know, and if you and, you know, the next day, the day off, you spend basically getting yourself physically back to being human.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you try to find a restaurant that's got some fresh food, you know, you try to get a sleep in a normal bed, you know, maybe get, you know, I go to the zoo a lot,
Yeah,
you know, just because I like animals and to have a reason to walk around in the sunshine,
yeah, yeah.
and so, you know, that to me becomes the goal in life is just like how to sort of feel like a human being and not a sardine in a tin can.
No, I get it. I get it. Now, you had a couple of guitars stolen from you on this tour. Um, I would be devastated. You know, I have to believe that you were devastated too. Any insight how the guitars disappeared?
Well, somebody broke into the gear trailer,
Oh, okay.
and I got a text from our tour manager, you know, saying the, you know, gear's been stolen. I thought all the gear was gone. So my first thought was like, I can probably rustle up some guitars, but you know, it's actually going to be more challenging, you know, by showtime to put a pedal board together. And Billy needs his double neck bass. Where are we going to get one of those?
Right.
And we got to get amps and a drum kit, and so that was my mind's going like all the gear. Then an hour goes by, and I realize, oh, it wasn't all the gear; it was just my stuff.
Oh shit.
And the drum mics got stolen,
Yeah.
um, which was a pain. But you know, the venue's got drum mics, so
Mhm.
it in a way it was a relief. Like, oh, it's just I'm the only one that got screwed. Well, I can handle me. Yeah, you know, but don't take the double neck bass. You know, that would be, you can't find one of those. And Ibanez was brilliant. You know, I managed to find it was in Frankfurt, Germany, and they have a distributor there.
Okay.
And so within hours, they had I was, you know, had instruments to play.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And so I just, you know, I had a busy sound check putting strings on, but, you know, a couple truss rod tweaks and I was ready to go. So, you know, I think I was just sort of thrilled that I could solve the problem and we could do the show.
Yeah,
You know, I did, you know, because if you have to like cancel a show, that's really a bummer.
I agree.
You know, because that involves not just me, but the audience. You know, I want to, you know, I want to do the job
Yeah. No,
and
that's
enjoy
yeah.
it. So that was great. Now, of course, I missed the guitars. There were a couple in there that were really unique, you
Oh,
know, custom shop ones. But who knows? You know, those, you know, whoever took them, they're going to have to store them in their attic forever because, you know, I mean, you see that with like, you know, the Paul McCartney violin
yeah.
bass.
I read that. Yeah.
You know, it eventually resurfaces because, you know, it's a famous instrument.
Yeah.
And I'm not as famous as Paul McCartney, but that guitar is very recognizable.
Yeah.
So, you know, anywhere they take it, you know, people are going to know, hey, wait a minute, I know what that guitar is.
Yeah,
And
it was all over the music sites, you know. all the social media, you know, all the
Yeah.
pictures, the story behind it. So
Well, I know,
hopefully
Todd Rundgren had his main guitar disappear. He got it back, so it's
there's
possible.
hope.
It's possible I'll see those again.
There's hope, right?
Yeah.
There's hope you'll see it again,
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And in the meantime, I've got a decent collection.
I want to be respectful to your time. One last question. Mr. Big has been a huge journey for you for your entire career since the first album. What do you think you've learned along the way about being in Mr. Big with the guys?
Oh man, that's a good question, and a big question. Well, I'm trying to think of what I didn't know when I was 21,
Hmm.
and I mean a lot of small details, just how to do a big tour.
Yeah.
I'd only played clubs before then. I'd never played an arena or done a big show, and how to be a team player. I mean, I'd been in a lot of bands when I was a kid, but I was always sort of, uh, with Racer X, it was really I put that band together and you know, in a lot of ways called the shots. So if I had, there's one thing I'm going to credit Eric with, which I remember thinking that when you write a song, it pretty much comes to you out of the sky, complete in your head.
Wow.
And so that's the way I would write. And I remember showing a song I'd written to Eric, and he's like, "Well, I like it, but you should probably see if you can improve the lyrics and the bridge." And I was like, "What? How improve? That's what they are. They came to me that way." And Eric, having being more experienced as a songwriter, had no problem going like, "Oh, just rewrite the bridge. No big deal."
Yeah.
And to me, it was like a big deal. Like, rewrite? How can you change what came to you from your first inspiration? And so that working with somebody who was really a lot further down the path of songwriting, and to see how it's okay to shape and mold and try again and flip things around, and your first attempt does not have to be the final word on it.
Right. Right.
And that it was painful to me because I had a really hard time
Right.
budging from my initial inspiration.
It's like calling your baby ugly, right?
But that's the thing is, like, whenever you have to make a change that's difficult but ultimately good,
Yeah.
those are changes that you remember, because, like, that was tough. I didn't want to do it, but I'm glad I did.
And that's the tremendous learning of it. So yeah, come a long
Yeah.
way to the point. Well, listen, Paul, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I always enjoy speaking with you. You're so insightful and always so entertaining. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you too. Right on. Have a
I'll
good one.
talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Heavy metal
My
rock.
global mind.